What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next I'm going to talk about a $13,000 scam I recently saw on eBay. Stay tuned. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So this is a little bit different video than what I normally make. This was a sale that a friend of mine recently made me aware of, and I've been thinking about making a video about it just because I hate seeing these kinds of things happen out there, because I mean there's all kinds of problems with it. It hurts the buyers, it hurts the sellers, because it makes people lose confidence in the sellers and the platform. It also hurts buyers because then you've got buyers that don't want to purchase from there. You've got buyers that maybe, with respect to this one, this was a comic, but it could be anything, but they leave that hobby or that interest because they get burned by something like this. So I hate seeing this stuff. And seller scams, definitely when you're buying things online, you always have to be aware that those are out there. But in this case, I mean, it was such a huge sale. I mean, $13,500 was the final auction price that this comic, that this one sold for. And so if you're watching this, you're not really familiar with comics, what this was for an Amazing Spider-Man number 129 in a grade called a CGC 9.8. So that is the highest graded copy of that book that exists. There's nothing graded higher right now. And it is a very valuable book. It's about a $30,000 to $40,000 book right now. It sold earlier this year in a 9.8 for $43,200, and they're up online right now anywhere from about $30,000 to $50,000. So it's an expensive book. And again, don't get me wrong about eBay. I like the platform. I like selling on eBay. I like buying on eBay. I think it is a great place to buy and sell just all kinds of stuff. But there are definitely some issues, and scams and things like that, like this, are one of them. And one of the issues is that eBay's policy seems to allow it to happen because they allow people to copy listings. They don't care if people use pictures from other people's listings. And so that really allows for things like this to happen. And I get it when it's generic items, but not when it's something like this where it's a one-of-a-kind individual item. And so, because this actually happened to me last year, where I had a book listed for sale. I had a 9.2 of Amazing Spider-Man number 31, which is the first appearance of Gwen Stacy, who is Spider-Gwen. She's, a pretty popular character. And I had that up for sale, and people started messaging me. And they're like, hey, do you have this book listed twice? What's going on with this? And it ended up that somebody had copied my listing and listed that same book for sale, and the same pictures, same description, everything, same title. And so I reached out to eBay and I was like, this is a fake listing. You guys should take it down because you're going to have to deal with somebody that doesn't ship it, or the person's going to ship a fake thing so that they have more time to take your money and try to run off with it, all that kind of stuff. And eBay refused to take it down. They told me that it wasn't against the rules for that person to have that listing up with my exact same pictures, my exact same listing description, and that there was nothing they could do about it. And so that book sold. You can still actually see that sale on Go Collect. It's still on Go Collect, that fake sale. And so you can see it there. And so that it drove me nuts, because with comics, you've got these price consolidation sites, and most people knew that was a fake book. But some people, they think they're getting a deal, and so they'll still go for it, even though they know that it's probably not real, because they think there's that chance that it's real. I guarantee you that book wasn't shipped to them, because with that one, when you check just a few weeks later, that sale was no longer visible, and because eBay, it meant that somebody reported that the thing was never shipped or whatever, and so they pulled it. And yes, eBay is extremely buyer friendly, so your likelihood of getting your money back is very high. But the issue is with something that's expensive like this, in my case, that book was that person stole or scammed, ended up selling for a little over $2,600. This one's $13,500. And depending on how you choose to pay, if you did a direct bank payment, your you're missing $13,500 from your bank account. You better hope you can get that back, because I guarantee you that book didn't ship. And then if you paid with a credit card, depending on how long it takes to get your money refunded or to get that removed from your statement, you may have to pay that bill. And so you could get to the end of that month and now you owe that money. And depending on what your plan was, if you were planning to buy this book and try to flip it quick to cover that bill, you're going to have a real big problem when it comes to pay that bill if you don't have that $13,500 available, and now you're paying fees. And so there's definitely a lot of risk that comes with that, but there are a lot of red flags that you can see with these too. And so what types of steps can people take to avoid having just these huge types of monetary hits happen in these scams that are out there? So with this listing, there were a lot of red flags. That's why it is so astounding that the auction price got up as high as it did, that it actually closed out at $13,500. I think there were 14 separate bidders. And so if you look at what this item is actually worth, that's the first thing. This is a $30,000 to $40,000 book. If its price ends up being too good to be true, it probably is. Now, you can get deals. I mean, there are definitely deals out there to be found, especially on auctions. But with something like this, an extremely well-known and popular book, one of the most popular books that is out there, the likelihood of that book selling for half of the current going prices for that book is just, it's not going to happen. You might get lucky and it's like 10% below market or 20% below market. But more than half of the sale from September, I mean like a third of the sale from September, I mean that's not going to happen. So if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Next thing, you really do have to look at that seller history. So now this seller was, I'd say, a little savvy on what they decided to do. They did have less than 10 feedback. I think they had about 7. You can't actually see it anymore because, surprise, surprise, you can't actually see this sale when you try to click on it now, because it was clearly a fraudulent sale, and so that's now been handled. But they had like 7 feedback, so they probably did a couple small transactions to get their feedback just up a little bit, because a lot of times these scam sellers will have 0 feedback, and so this one had 7. So the thing that really bugs me about that is that hurts people who are new sellers, because new sellers, they are suffering because they now have people that think that they're trying to, maybe scam someone or something like that because they have low feedback. And so it hurts new sellers. I was a new seller at one point, and it's tougher to get those first few sales when you have very little feedback. There's some sellers that won't even sell to you if you're a buyer and you have low feedback like that. So it's tough having that low feedback. And so having situations like this where it makes sellers look bad, it's just, it doesn't, not good for anybody. But this one, less than 10 feedback, be wary. It doesn't mean that it's a deal breaker, but look at other things. Are there any other red flags with that seller? And the next one was the location of the seller. So this seller was actually located in Georgia, and I'm not talking about the southern state of Georgia. I'm talking about the country of Georgia, of the former Soviet Union. And that should have been a pretty big red flag, because while I'm not saying that you wouldn't have high-end comics coming from there, but it is very unlikely. And so it's when you start adding these things up, you get this picture that this is a very unlikely item to be real. Having a 9.8, one of the more expensive comic books from that era out there, coming from Georgia with a low feedback seller, selling for a fraction of what it's actually really worth. All those things are red flags. And then you've got the last one, and this is the biggest one. This was the one that just told you that nobody should have been bidding on it, but it was the same thing that happened to me, and a bunch of people bid on that duplicate copy, that copy of my book. And that was, is there another copy of that book on eBay right now? And in this case, there was, and it's still listed. And so the actual listing, it has the exact same title, it has the exact same description, and when you actually went and looked at the book, so with these graded comics, they have a barcode on them that is a unique identifier to that book. That barcode was identical. Everything was the same. Pictures were copied. Barcode is identical. Description is the same. All of those things should have told you this was not a real sale, and nobody should have bid on that book. If you're spending over $10,000, if you're spending over $1,000, I mean, you've got to have some due diligence where you're checking other listings. You know, if you're searching for Amazing Spider-Man 129 CGC 9.8 in eBay, there is no way you didn't see that other listing that had the exact same title at the same time. I mean, if you're bidding thousands of dollars, take a little bit of time and check so that you don't end up having to deal with the fact that you make that payment, you're now potentially out that money. It's either on your credit card or out of your bank account or whatever it is, and now you've got to try to get your money back and prove to eBay that this was a fraudulent seller. So just remember, buying online, it's not meant to be scary or anything like that. Buying on eBay, selling on eBay, I think they are great, but there are risks to try and avoid. So just remember, look for those 4 basic things. If the price is too good to be true, it probably is. Check the seller history, check the seller location, and check if there are similar items for sale. Just one of those might not be a deal breaker. The duplicate item for sale is kind of a deal breaker. But when you add all of them together, you've got so many red flags, so many things that are telling you that something is wrong with that sale that you just don't bid on it. Or if you notice it afterwards, do not pay for that item, because then you're going to have to deal with trying to get your money back and convincing eBay or your credit card or whoever it is that somebody stole from you. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.